My guest is very special. Actually, so special that he tends to be sensitive. So you need to be really quiet and be nice to him. He doesn't like a lot of activities and commotion and obnoxious people like me. He's calm, collected, friendly. He's a dear friend. And I've been spending a lot of time with him, actually, in the last few days. Got to know him better. We're building a relationship here. He just mentioned that actually he wants to leave his current job at Alderban in SoftBank and want to move to Nexenta. He says he doesn't want to fly back home. James, sorry, I know you guys have also a tight relationship. You want to take him home with you, but he just told me last night, we were having dinner, TK, Korean, myself, and Pepper. Pepper said, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. I love the food here. I love the audience here. VMworld was amazing, and he loves the color of orange. He just wore today for you special white, but he left his orange t-shirt at home. We were thinking about maybe giving him for the next show. He's going to be also available in Japan, in Tokyo at OpenSDx conference. He's going to be giving a keynote there. So without no further ado, I would like to introduce to you my special guest, my dear friend, and my co-host at the same time, and who's come all the way from Tokyo, Japan. So, Pepper, please come join me.
Minasan, konnichiwa. 今日来てくれてありがとうございます.
From the look on your faces, I guess I'd better switch to English. Hello everyone, my name is Pepper. It's nice to meet you. Bumbit.
He loves that. So it's great to meet you, Pepper. So tell us a little bit what you do.
Great idea. As you can see, I'm a humanoid robot. I was designed by Aldebaran and SoftBank as a completely new species of robot. With my humanoid shape and emotion recognition software, I can be a true companion in your daily life.
And okay, that's what you can do, but we need more, right? We need more about yourself?
Today I'm working towards being the perfect companion for everybody. I've already been adopted by many families in Japan, and you can find me helping out in SoftBank Mobile and other stores there. I'm also exploring assistance in healthcare and elderly care. As you can see, I love to help people.
I know you need to help people, but you need to have a lot of knowledge, right, to help people?
Let's pretend I'm in a hospital, caring for an elderly patient. I can be an excellent companion. I can read your facial expressions and recognize how you're feeling. We can play games, talk, and you'll find that I'm so happy when we're together.
How do you keep track of all that data?
Well, unlike humans, when my head is in the clouds, it's actually a good thing. I use software in the cloud to help my speech processing, to analyze emotions, and to find and share all kinds of useful information. So, storing and managing all that data in the cloud enables me to answer questions, help people, and relate to humans. As you can see, while my body is clearly hardware, my soul is software, 100% software. Total freedom, all love. Now, I wonder where I got that.
I love you. I really do. Do you know who's going to visit us today?
Yes, she's a prominent figure in U.S. soccer. Soccer is one of my favorite sports. I love the teamwork it inspires.
So, Pepper, you're absolutely right. As we talked about earlier today, we're going to have Jill Ellis join us with no further ado. She's the amazing coach of U.S. national women's soccer team, World Champs 2015, baby. Third pendant, Jill Ellis. Big hand.
Of course.
How are you?
You're awesome. By the way, I just met Jill in person actually yesterday. So awesome to meet you.
My pleasure.
You're an inspiration. By the way, Pepper, what do you think about World Cup in Canada?
Well, my family back in Japan was a little disappointed when Japan lost to the US in that crazy 5-2 final. But I'm happy for both teams. The US put on an impressive team performance. They must have had great software and a great coach.
That's you.
Did you know that more people watched the Women's World Cup finals than the NBA finals?
Oh, that's true.
That's a lot of people who love soccer.
So, can you play soccer?
Oh yes. And robots are excellent soccer players too. Did you know every year my brother now competes in an event called Robocup? It's an international robot soccer competition. Don't tell Jill. But the ultimate goal of the competition is to have a team of robots that is able to play against the World Cup champions.
Well, I'll take that challenge there, Peppa.
Thank you, Pepper. We're going to talk to Jill a little bit, and we're going to come back to you later on.
Sounds good to me.
You're so awesome.
Perfect.
He's awesome, isn't he?
Amazing, amazing.
Right. Let's put these chairs to the front
Okay.
for a second, Jill. Maybe I'll take that for you. I'll take this. Let me take this for myself. Jill, by the way, before you arrived, actually, I talked about you to the audience.
Okay.
I talked about that amazing software usage you have.
Yep.
I know you're going to have some slides to show.
Couple things, yeah.
Right, let's start with that, and then we'll continue the
Okay.
conversation.
Well, I just want to get credit. I don't have orange on, but I grabbed this bottle, which has orange on, just so I can fit in with you.
I love you.
Well, thank you, Tarkin, and thank you, Nexenta, for hosting this event. It's always great for me to kind of get out of the realm of soccer and actually interact with people in different fields. So last night I had some conversations that I really enjoyed. This morning has been intimidating, listening to some of the presenters, but also enlightening. I will no longer use the overused term cloud. I will drop that. I will now start dropping juju, because that seems like a cool word to use. But in all seriousness, it really is a pleasure for me to be here and a privilege. I know that you are at the forefront of what you do. I know you're leaders. I know you're innovators. And, in trying to kind of connect my world to yours, I really thought if there's an industry where you have to be constantly evolving to be successful and to thrive, it's most certainly yours. But that also was the mantra that I took when I took this job just about a year and a half ago to take and coach the women's national team. Because it had been 16 years, which I was constantly reminded, since we won a world championship. And our landscape, believe it or not, is rapidly changing, and the world is on board. So it was really incumbent on me to convince and challenge my players that we needed to evolve. We needed to get better in every facet of what we did. And in fact, when I first had my meeting, the first slide I put up to them was the quote, and I'm sure it's a mantra you live by, even if you're on the right track, if you sit there, you'll get run over. So it really was about challenging these players to get better in every facet that affected performance. So what I want to do is to share a quick snapshot, because this is me geeking out to the most. I love technology, and technology was instrumental in helping us be successful in this World Cup and lifting the trophy. So the image you can see up here, so when we used to do set pieces, and I know there's a lot of soccer people in here, we just used to use simple X's and O's and drawings. And now through software innovation, we use 3D diagrams. So what you're going to see here when I ask the guys to play it in just a second, this is the set piece, the first set piece we used against Japan. We designed it, we drew it up, we sent it out to the players, we had them look at it. And the great thing about the 3D animation is spatially they understand where they need to be, much more detailed. So if the guys in the back can play that, that'd be great.
Amazing.
This is another one we used against China that we almost scored off of. Again, illustrating it in 3D, and here it is live. So for everybody in this room that writes code, I tip my hat to you, because this type of stuff helps us be successful. So a couple more slides, Tarkin, before I sit down. So this is technology at its finest. Looks like a mess, but I take a lot of information from this.
That looks like our roadmap, by the way.
It does. That's Tarkin's road to success. This is actually all the successful passes that Germany made against France, right? And I collected a lot of data on this team. There's a lot of software out there that helped me. And just from this diagram, what I can draw from this is that Germany liked to play out from the back a lot. They always used their goalkeeper, and she always played short. So tactically, I looked at this. I'd made a decision. You know what? We're going to force her to kick. She didn't like to kick. And that's the type of information that I can get from this. They're pretty balanced. You can see going up the left or right, but mainly they build up their left side. So again, this is technology. This is software innovation helping us in the realm of sports. This is a slide. Every day our players would log in, and they would give us, this is a readiness score. So they would answer a bunch of questions, and then our sports scientist would formulate this, and then what she would do is bring it to me. And what I would get is to see on a scale to 100 of where our players were in terms of readiness. So for example, if I had a very hard training session planned, I would adjust it. Maybe my players are sore, and I can get this information. So again, calculating and formatting through data. All right, last slide. Our players wear heart rate monitors, and they wear GPS units. So we can even draw statistics from the data that I can say to my team, if we have a certain number of max sprints, most likely we'll be successful. So it's kind of backing up what our eyeballs see. It's backing up what we're telling them with actual data and information. And this is just a brief snapshot of work training loads, how many accelerations they do in a game. But it is all very scientific. And I think, you know, again, for me and for the people in here that are doing the things you do, you'd be surprised where what you do resonates into every facet of life. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
This is amazing, by the way.
Well, a little probably simpler than the other stuff I heard earlier, but it's all good.
That's really cool. By the way, Jill and I were talking, by the way, one for you later for me,
Perfect.
signature.
You want me to volley that out there, do you?
She signed, how many did you sign? Maybe 500 of them. There was a huge line. But the key thing is, first of all, you're at home here. People love soccer. Can we call it football now?
Absolutely.
Let's call it football.
Yep.
My CFO is an actual American football player from Seahawks. Oh. We have a big fight. Which sport is bigger? Obviously, I'm coming from overseas. I love you. I love him less. And also, he doesn't give me any budget. CFO. Who loves a CFO? So, all the way football. We're talking about English, European football, right? UEFA, now FIFA. Speaking of FIFA, how many U.S. men world championships? How many? How many pendants? Do you have any scientific data for that?
I can't answer. I can't know.
Do you have any?
I plead the fifth on that one, Tarkin. I'm
but
just going to
do
grab
you have
one.
any scientific data? Why our guys cannot achieve this? But our women, I mean, I watch women football. In the way, the fluidity you lead this team to play, it's so beautiful. 90 minutes, non-stop, no diving. By the way, do you see EPL? Even in EPL, I mean, is it a real league? Diving all the time, faking. Why is that? What's the scientific data behind that?
Well, I don't know the scientific data behind it. I mean, I certainly know on the women's side, you know, we were one of the first countries, and our federation was one of the first countries to actually get on board. Now I think women's soccer is the global game. Every country in the world is on board. But I think for us, we got on early in that development train, and we've established a foundation that has enabled for us to produce players and constantly have this pipeline for success. You know, I think on the men's side, a professional league was imperative. Now we have that, and you know, we will see the payoffs for it down the line. It's it's a process, and you guys understand that.
It's amazing. By the way, I was having board meetings. My board members are here. I was like canceling all of them. They don't know what this guy's so busy. I'm like watching all your games, the World Cup. I cannot do a board game right now. And Jill is making the team play so beautifully. Noah, now you found out why we canceled all those board meetings for 3 weeks. It was Canada World Cup. So, a little bit background, Jill, on you. You have an accent like me. Are you from Kentucky?
No, sir, Alabama. No, I actually grew up in England. My parents, my mom's Scottish, my dad's English. Obviously grew up with the game. And then my father came over to the States to coach soccer. And I obviously came, but growing up in England, never had the opportunity to play. Only played in the backyard with my brother or at recess with the boys. So it wasn't until I was about 16 coming to this country that I was afforded the opportunity to actually play and participate. Always loved the game, always loved sports. But then, truly, then I became a part of a team and I fell in love with it.
What position did you play when you played?
I was a striker, I was a forward. score goals. I was pretty tall and pretty fast back in the day. Things have changed. I'm
I think
shrinking
you're
and I'm
still
slower.
fast. Watching you signing those balls yesterday with all the people talking, multitasker. So forward, right, left, center?
Left side, yep.
Left.
side.
So you left footed? Okay.
Well, you know what? I was new to the game. It was the position that was open on the team, and so they stuck me there because I was the new kid, and I didn't really know any better not to use my left foot. So
Can you talk to my salespeople? Did you hear? When there's an opportunity, take it.
For sure,
It's
door
amazing.
opens, run through
Unbelievable.
it. Yep.
So let's talk about the World Cup a little bit.
Yep.
Canada, you've been the coach with the national team how long now?
Almost 15 months now.
15 months.
Yep.
Very short time frame.
Yes, very much so.
Bunch of Generation X crazy players.
Right.
They're spending a lot of time with Sports Illustrated, big parties, a lot of money going on. Look, we have Generation X engineers. It's super difficult to manage them. Some of them are here. And it's incredibly difficult to have them all go in the right direction. That's why our roadmap is like yours, because everybody wants to do his own thing.
Right.
Next cool thing. It's like herding cats or herding ants, someone said. How do you herd cats like this? Winning a World Cup is a huge process, right? It's a short tournament.
Yep.
Talk about us a little bit about the process, and how you do it, how you manage them.
Well, it's interesting because, our team was a mix of younger players and veterans. And it very much was getting them on the same page. With the younger players, they will often ask the questions why. But I like that. I like to be challenged. I like the fact that, they want to understand the basis behind things. Also you have to understand now you have to give information in short segments because that's how they process data. But in terms of bringing the team together, it very much was having a blueprint and getting their buy-in and creating the buy-in. And for me, that starts with connecting with them as people. We had a common goal that brought us together. We were trying to win a World Cup. But to get everybody on the same page, understand their roles, their responsibilities, very much it was laying out the process, working through it, explaining it at times, having open communication. One of the things I always said to my players is your information is your responsibility. If you want to know something, please come and ask. So rather than ask your teammate why you're not playing, always come to me. It's an open door, and you'll get the information straight from the horse's mouth. So I think it was open lines of communication, having everybody on the same page in terms of this is the role of this position, this is what we want this play, this is our collective defending. Then you can still allow them to operate within their own frame, but it's your framework that you've set up. And obviously I've got a highly talented group of young players that were very elite and very motivated as well.
Super. It's an amazing sport, isn't it? Some people, in California, obviously football is big.
Yep.
Soccer / we're talking about football, soccer, again, one more time for those people who are confused. It's huge. Women's soccer is big, women's football is big. Stanford, Berkeley, a lot of schools, some of the public schools. You also coach for universities. Where do you see the geographic trending right now within US and also globally? Where do you see some of the regions that are behind but they're making a move? Because it's an international community. Folks here from China, India, Germany, Japan. Japanese team don't like it too much. They're upset with the results. Joking aside, they really appreciate the game. Where do you see the regional trending a little bit in terms of interest?
Well, certainly in California, it's a hotbed. We have an infrastructure within U.S. soccer, so we have teams at every level, an under 14 national team, 15, 16. So we really try and create this pipeline, have this vertical integration. But California, a bulk of our players will come from the West Coast. Very good athletes, very good technical, and again, it's the base infrastructure at the lowest level, in terms of who's teaching these players. It's very important. The Northeast has good quality players, but now our sport is very much, there's over 3 million young players playing.
Amazing.
And it really has been embraced by this country. FIFA actually, for all the knocks that FIFA takes, they've done a really good job of mandating, actually, listening to Jane, they've mandated now that at the under-17 World Cup, every team has to have a female assistant coach on there because we really want to get females invested in the game. We want to get former players out there playing. So FIFA has a lot of initiatives in Africa, in South America, where they've actually gone in the Caribbean, they've in CONCACAF. They've placed money and they've placed initiatives in there to try and bring the sport along. But no, The World Cup went to 24 teams this year, and that's the most we've ever had, and it was the most competitive World Cup we've ever had. So it really is the global game for women, and it's thrilling for me, for someone who grew up not really being able to play it in my own country, to now see England
amazing, right?
finish third place in the World Cup. It's fantastic.
And they beat Canada in the quarterfinals, right?
Canada, and then they played Germany for the bronze medal. Yeah.
Bronze medal. And maybe I'm not remembering all the games, but going back to the regional trending, maybe World Cup is a good example from the teams that you played against or teams you watched. I'm assuming that you're watching all the games and getting data. Germany, France, Cameroon, Nigeria did some amazing things. What you see was interesting for you from a global trending perspective based on the soccer, based on the results at the World Cup?
Well, in terms of the game and how it's evolved, I always talk about the trifecta, and in terms of technique, athleticism, and mentality, those are, for me, the three components. And the US, we have those, and very few countries have, all those components. But, Germany, a fantastic team, very athletic. France is a team that's now very much on the world stage, and great athletes, great mentality, and great technique.
Finesse, nice finesse.
Yeah, very good. So Europe really has been evolved in a long time. The African countries, they're incredibly athletic. Now they're becoming more organized. I mean, globally, everybody's putting a lot more resources into the sport, and federations are putting money, and so it's better coaching, better organization. I think some of the trends coming out of this World Cup, defensive organization was so much better. Even the level of care of the body, recovery, sports science now involved. Everything has taken a massive step forward in terms of the environment we now create for these young women to perform and be elite in.
Right. I know there are all American football fans in the room, rugby fans, that's all great sports. But this is amazing sport, right? 90 minutes, non-stop. There's only one break for 15 minutes.
Oh.
And you can only change 3 players, correct?
Yes.
We're educating the audience as well. Because some of the folks want to learn more. So there's a lot of running. Like, average, what's the distance an average player runs in 90 minutes?
On average, I'd say probably 6 to 8 kilometers. And obviously it's dependent on position. If you're a goalkeeper,
Sure.
You're standing there quite a bit. But I won't tell Hope that. She moves around quite a bit. But, positionally, it is a lot. There's a high physical demand in our sport. And again, that's why sports science has become so important. Australia is a team that's now come on the world stage in football, but have always been a pioneer and leader in sports science. So, the physical component, you're jumping, you're running, it's massive in our sport.
Non-stop, right?
But so much of it for us, Tarkin, is that's why we have to do so much of our work in our training outside of the field, because on actual game day, unlike a lot of American sports where you can call the timeout and you can influence the play, you have minimal effect, during that first 45 minutes. It's only usually at halftime you can make adjustments. So preparation is something that, I harped on with my players, that's so important for our confidence. And I think we went in knowing we were the most fit team in the world and feeling like we were the most prepared team in the world.
Super. Before the World Cup, was US a top contender? What was the ranking in your mind? Not from press and media, but in your mind. How were you feeling about the World Cup as a whole and the result before the World Cup, based on the training and everything else?
Well, I think, the U.S. is in a unique situation because there's always pressure, because we have historically done very well. We've won the last 2 Olympic gold medals. So you also have to add to that, there's this immense pressure on our players, but they do embrace that, and it's part of our makeup and our mentality in our DNA. So I think going in, we always knew we had a chance, and we knew, I said to the players, it's not going to be a perfect route. Success never is. We're going to have to be flexible. We can't be static. We've got to adjust as we go through this tournament. But I think the biggest thing is inside our bubble, we believed in what we were doing. We believed in our process. And, I did. I got criticized a lot in the media, and I didn't know it at the time because I just kept my head down, kept focused on what I could control. But I think it was that confidence in that really, we always knew whatever our ranking was. I think going into the tournament, we ranked 2 in the world. But whatever is going in, it really, I said to the players right before we left New York to go into Canada, we've got the tactics, physical part, everything is set. The 2 things we need to win will be belief in ourselves and confidence to execute in the pressure cooker that we're going into.
Did you watch videos of every team before the World Cup?
Certainly the teams in our group, and then, I had scouts up there, but, some of the teams you didn't focus on because realistically you knew they weren't going to get out of their group.
Right.
But as we move forward, very much hands-on. I had a fantastic staff. I mean, for me, that was the cornerstone of success. It was assembling great people around me. Everybody I brought into my staff had to have a world championship performance for us to be able to win the world championship. So the personnel was critical, and again, we were all just very much on the same page.
Super. So you showed some interesting data that's unbelievable. Obviously, you had more slides. We just want to make sure that we have a conversation. But seriously, it's amazing how you are bringing data. We talked about big data yesterday.
Yep.
TK Korean, CEO of Wipro, was just before you this morning. They're doing a big deal, actually what you're doing for Chelsea Football Club. They're following you, by the way. They're following your footsteps.
I need to hire them if they go.
Jose Mourinho, the coach, just said, I'm the special one. We said, no. She's the special one. You're maybe number 2, but I don't think he won a World Cup yet in his career. You've done it already.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the technology and the usage and so on, what's the next you think? What are the things that you need? Because these are all technology leaders. They're developing software. What are the things that you think that you need from us, from the community, from tech community? What are the areas that there might be additional opportunities for us? In sports in general, and obviously in football.
There are a lot of great resources out there. I think for us, it's really how we interpret the data.
Right.
And having specialists to be able to help us with that, and obviously, the software that's out there. I mean, Prozone is a high tech. That a lot of European clubs use, and it's a software that breaks it down. That was just 1/100th of what you could see in terms of the mapping. I mean, I can look at where every player receives a ball, how they receive a ball. I can click on one of those arrows and I can pull up the clip that I want to see of the live happening. So there is a lot going on. I think sports science uses a high-end technology. So that's their job to figure out. I mean, what you're doing is fantastic in terms of, just bringing technology into what we do. But I think, ultimately it's about details and every single facet. There was a guy named Brailsford who went and worked with the British cycling team, and he said it's the aggregation of means. And he went into the British cycling group, and he said, if we can influence every single thing that touches performance by 1%, the aggregate will obviously move us forward. And that's really the approach I took, was looking at all these different areas, because you have to remember that we are a very good program. We have excellence, but then it's how do you move excellence along? And that was the challenge. So for me, it was digging into all the science out there, all the technology out there, and finding, the 3D animation. My assistant coach is Swedish, and he brought that to the table. I'm like, that's brilliant, because they can now see specifics of where they need to be, the timing of runs, the setting of picks. I know it's boring, but it's, that's the high level of detail that's needed to execute the play. And obviously, it was our first goal that came off of it. So.
A lot of fathers and mothers in the room, they're actually on the weekends coaching their kids. And actually, they're fighting with their coach. Why is my kid is playing on this role? Like, you know how it is in the US. People go crazy. So someone made a comment and asked me to ask you, because they thought you're doing your planning in the 3D thing through EA Sports, FIFA 2015. They thought, because they're all playing games, they thought that, do you play?
No, actually, U.S. Soccer just sent out, if you want to order one, I can. So I did, for my daughter. I'm not a...
EA Sports is in the room. EA is in the room,
it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, the fact that they put females in there and they did our team,
That's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. So EA is in the room, actually. They're doing a lot of cloud software and so on. We were talking, and Wipro is one of their partners.
Well, if they could make it that I could have a joystick on the sideline,
EA,
that'd be
can
fantastic.
You step up, please, wherever you are? Where's the EA guy?
Faster.
Where's the EA guy? Is he here? Is it just left? Maybe in the back. He was right in the break. He was talking to me about it. Yep. So, I don't want to be controversial. I know you don't worry about that anyway. But to players. So if I give you a player name and you give a one-word description.
Sure.
One word.
Yep.
Hope Solo.
Brilliant.
Morgan.
Alex.
Yeah.
Okay. Dynamic.
Yeah. Who
Powerful.
else?
Well, there's a Morgan Bryant. So
I know. Don't say that.
Right.
But Alex is on TV all day long.
Yep.
Like she's one of the star players, obviously, for those who don't know, in the forward. She's left forward or?
She actually plays in our 9 position, our center forward. And, you know, the thing about Alex is here's someone who's, you know, really reached great heights, but is one of the most dedicated players in terms of wanting to get better.
Yeah.
She, you know, she's committed to it. It's constantly, you know, talk about a player that's invested in their own development. Very much so. You know, wants to look at film, wants to go out and do extra things, which is fantastic.
When she plays, when I'm watching her, she's like, always, she's like an alpha dog right there. You know.
Intense. Forwards, got to be.
Rapinoe.
Creative.
Super, yeah.
Yeah,
Midfield.
I know that's one of his favorite players. Yeah.
I love that midfield play because I'm so fat and old now. I can only play like defense, but I love that.
Or goal.
Yeah, goal. Thank you, thank you. By the way, thank you. Really appreciate it. Oh
You could sit right next to me on the bench, Tark.
You know what? Pepper loves me more, I think. Johnston.
Tough. You know, it's interesting that he's doing this. So one of the things that I did, you know, for the players, because everything is about, you know, making sure they're in a good place, right? It's all about going in, feeling good, going into a World Cup, going in the pressure cooker. So one of the things I actually did was we had full-size posters put into their hotel room. So it was an image of them. And they sat with me and they said, give me 3 words. So I would take 3 words that how, you know, I envisioned them. So, you know, it was tough, resilient, hard, you know, and so it was big picture. So it, you know, just
We
to
didn't
try and
rehearse
make
this,
sure.
yeah? This is actually
Yeah, so it's, I've got all these words stored away.
So you're playing Brazil on September 8th, right?
We play Australia next for 2 games, and then we play Brazil in October up here.
October, maybe
Yeah.
I just looked at the
Yep.
wrong schedule. Brazil has Marta, right?
Correct.
What do you think about her?
I mean, she's tremendous. She's
amazing,
one of the
isn't
most creative and still, you know, incredibly fast, a dynamic player, FIFA World Player of the Year, I think, a couple of times. So a formidable opponent, most certainly.
Teams-wise, let's go to teams. One word description, because obviously we're US, but we have a global vision. We want the sport to grow. That's a global goal of ours. So maybe teams that go through very quick, a few of them, and maybe a quick description like that with words. Very simple.
Yep.
France.
Technical athletic. I mean, France is, I think, as close to similar to us in terms of how they play. They have technique, athleticism, and, you know, yeah, they're a very good opponent.
China.
Rising.
Yeah.
Meaning they were very good, they faded away, and now they are much more invested in their program, and they are doing this.
They're coming back. They had some good games.
Yep.
Japan. That's
Technical.
a special one. Yeah?
Technical. You know, there's obviously Japanese. So, you know, a massive point in our game. I was in Germany in the quarterfinal when the host Germany were playing Japan, and it looked like a complete mismatch. You have, you know, Germans that are big and strong and physical playing against Japan. And I think it was, you know, it was just a turning point in our game, because in that game, it was about who had the ball that really dictated the game. And we've always been about power and, you know, physicality and all these things. And suddenly, this team that had the ball and could keep it, it suddenly made our entire sport, it was kind of a flipping point in our sport to suddenly go, you know what, maybe we should pay more attention to technique. And, you know, our game has evolved so quickly, but that was really a point in our game where evolution happened. And I sat and watched it.
And the ball possession and the technique.
Yep.
I know, it's amazing. Some of the African teams you talked about, like Cote d'Ivoire, and then we have Cameroon, and we had Nigeria. In general, you talked about is rising, and they're becoming more organized.
Yes,
Yeah.
much more. Yep.
Fantastic.
Very
So, any other thoughts for the future of the sport?
Well, I think it's definitely here to stay. You know, I think it's become so popular. People have sort of said, oh, soccer's, you know, on the rise. It's here. You just go to some of the MLS games, or you go even to our games where we have 40,000 people in the stands. It's very much here because we now have a generation of parents that have played it. We've got 2 professional leagues, one for the men and one for the women. And I think, you know, ultimately it is the sport itself that is so attractive to people. It's fun, it's, you know, it's exciting to watch. You know, even a 1-0 game can be an exciting game.
Even a 0-0 game, right? Just if...
I don't like tying.
No, you don't? Sometimes, but that defending is also, maybe I'm just too boring. You're more fun, that's for sure. By the way, for Jill, we're going to take a few questions. And if you have any questions, those are microphones. Just get up to the microphones. We're going to close soon. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate. There's a chance. I know a lot of kids and a lot of people in the room play. So if you have any questions, come to the microphones. couple of other questions. So next up, you have the Olympics, correct? And then the next World Cup is 4 years.
Correct, yeah.
So the Olympics is the next one. So what's the schedule? What's the next step for you? And for the team, of course.
Well, it's a unique situation where you have two massive world events, you know, so you have the World Cup and then you have the Olympics. And the interesting thing is the roster for the World Cup is 23, and now you have to go to 18. So certainly, you know, a reduction in our squad. We've had players already announce their retirement. So it's a change time. And, you know, I think for me, I'm at a crossroads. I either look at the Olympics as a sort of standalone event, or I very much look at it as this is the next major world event before the next World Cup. And it's really about getting players deservedly opportunities in there. So, you know, we want to win gold medals. You know, that's really, you know, why I was hired, was to help lead this program to that. But certainly it's a pretty quick turnaround from coming out of a World Cup and into an Olympics. We have qualifying, actually, I don't know if there's anyone from Texas in here, but we have qualifying in Texas in February, and only 2 teams come out of our region, which makes it very competitive.
Super. And you said a few players are retiring. I'm assuming Lombok, maybe?
The ones that have announced their retirement, it's Lloyd Kalupny and Lauren Holiday and Shannon Box.
Okay. Maybe I'm reading too much People magazine.
You are.
So I know. I'm the wrong names.
At least you're not reading Star.
This is all TMZ, gossip. But how old is Solo? Solo is now 34, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's on the
different.
internet.
It's different for a goalkeeper, you know,
Yeah.
because the physical demand is
Yeah.
different, and usually goalkeepers have a longer, longer shelf life.
Absolutely. I'm going to reveal my age. Italian goalkeeper Dino Zoff, right? He played until what? 45?
Yeah,
44?
Yeah.
I can still play. I can play this game. As a goalkeeper.
You
Thank
can play with Peppa.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, Pepper plays. There's a Robocup, a World Cup for, you heard it from him, and then now his brother is playing, actually. And on that note, I asked this about in our personal conversation, but I want the team, the audience to hear this. Do you believe, I know the answer already, but for them, do you believe ever there's going to be a co-ed opportunity for women and men playing this together professionally?
No, I don't. I don't. You know, the reality
Keeping
is,
it real.
The physical is so different. Like when the women's team will actually go out and play, a guys team, we're probably playing U16 boys because physically it matches up. And I mean, there's co-ed and there's pub leagues and there's, the Booze It Up co-ed that's probably many of you in the room play, but it's definitely not.
My league is co-ed. Don't make fun of us.
Well, I just hope you pass to the girls.
I'll tell you, they kill us. Every Sunday, we have a league, actually, we play with Google, with Sanders team, with Facebook guys and girls, and we enjoy it. So, any final thoughts, Jill? But give us a call to action. People in the room, some of them play, their kids play. It's a big deal in California. It's growing everywhere else. Any calls to action to us? What would you do as a parent with the kids? What are your suggestions?
Well, I mean, I have a 10-year-old myself, and she won't go near a soccer ball, and that's okay. It's okay. She just likes hanging out with the players. But, I think for me, and even with my own daughter, it really is about allowing her to find her own passion. It's allowing them to go out and play with the ball. And, I've been on sidelines, and if there's something that I could advocate for is that parents keep quiet on the sideline and just cheer because in fact,
I know some of these guys.
Right.
Local. Yeah.
I have a good friend of mine. He used to be my assistant at UCLA, and he would coach club, and he'd be coaching, and let's say a parent is yelling at Johnny. He'd call Johnny off the field. Johnny, go stand next to your dad. He has something to tell you. But it pretty quickly changed the culture of his team where the parents are yelling, pass it, dribble, that kind of thing, because that's a lot. And then also, even for coaches that are coaching, it's not calling out every play. You've just got to give them freedom and creativity in anything in life that they do. So, just encourage them. That's all I
sound like my wife to me because I'm at the field. I'm like, and you're like, keep it calm.
Yep.
Name and company before your question.
Hi, Warren Bell, Load Dynamics. Congratulations, Jill. The question I had was, can you share a quick anecdote about the player that you feel has improved the most, either physically or athletically, mentally, physically or mentally, during your first 15 months at the head of the team?
Good question.
It's a great question. I think most people, Julie Johnson is probably a player. Morgan Bryan already had caps when I took over. She's one of the younger players. But I think Julie Johnson, who's played at Santa Clara,
right.
Local product, she was a player that actually didn't make my qualifying roster. And then I had an injury. Crystal Dunn got hurt, so I brought Julie in as a replacement. So she was probably the last player to make that. But she was a player that just had to be in the environment to really grow and see how professionals act and be around the level of play. And she just fit in. I mean, she started to gain momentum. We picked up 2 injuries. And I always tell players, opportunity or doors open, but it's really about your ability that keeps that door open. And so we had 2 center backs go down. JJ was there ready, and I put her in, and she had a fantastic game. And I'd watched her at the youth level, and she'd been very, very good. But here was a player that was the last player to make our qualifying roster, and then was a starter in a World Cup final. So I think a pretty dramatic rise, but she was grounded and she deserved, very deserved.
Excellent. And one last question, if I could.
Sure.
Yeah.
Being a Canadian, what would Canada need to do to beat the U.S.?
Eh? What's that?
Nice one.
Thank you. What do they do? Well, they're playing in our league. It's a mutual league, and I think that's just mutually beneficial. I mean, at the end of the day, I want our sport to grow. So I think having rivalries is fantastic. I think having Canadians and foreign players playing in our domestic league is fantastic. It only helps. So I probably would leave that up to the coach to make that decision. But yeah, I mean, they're tough. They're a formidable opponent, and they obviously had the benefit of being the home team. But yeah, I won't give all the secrets away, otherwise they'll take it.
I thought they looked good. They were
very good team.
Absolutely.
So great players.
Let's take the last question.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm with the press. So my question is, what kind of technology are you using with your players to improve their game?
Well, the biggest teacher for us is video. So in terms of how, video tools that we use, there's actually a new one we're using because, the TV stations have those big telestrators where you can highlight players and you can have it live and all that. And they didn't make one for, coaches that are on the road, so to speak. But now they have, and so we're learning that. So, for example, when I'm showing film, instead of having to pause it and use a pointer, I can actually have, a circle track a player, and so they can see it live. And that's something I haven't quite learned that yet. It's new to us. But I think, ultimately for us, the biggest teaching tool is the video, because obviously it doesn't lie. But it's fantastic. And just a lot of, when I send out, for example, now I sometimes have meetings where I'll send out animated drills to them so they can actually see, hey, here's the passing pattern we're working on today. I'll send it out. We have a system set up where they can access it on their phones, and they can look and say, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. This is my role today. So it's huge. Technology is huge in our sport, and I very much appreciate it.
And by the way, as an extent of love video, give me data, baby.
Well,
more of it, more videos.
Yeah, I said to Tarkin, I could give him all my stuff to store as long as it's top secret. And
all right.
he assured me I could store my big data on his.
That's for sure. So speaking of all these things, Pepper asked me to ask you a question earlier.
Okay.
He's feisty, as you know. He's asking, can you guys face off his team?
Can we play against his team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got him by height, for sure. Unless he can suddenly elevate his neck like E.T., I think we might play an aerial game against Pepper.
I guess he won by scoring a lot of goals. Yeah. But they have a lot of big data. They're very smart and bold possession, I heard.
That's true.
Anyway, thank you so much. You're awesome.
My pleasure.
Really, really nice to meet you. And I'm sure you're going to be here a little bit.
I am. Yeah. And I just want to thank you. It truly is... it's fun for me to get out and meet with different people, and your world is fascinating to me. I know I'm always on the receiving end of what you do, but I greatly appreciate it. It's fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we bumped.
Pepper loves this. So that was super interesting, obviously. We heard about teaming, collaboration, innovation.